Hey everybody, this is Eric, and I am going to show you today how to create an action using Adobe Photoshop CC 2020. And at the same time, I am going to show you how to remove glare out of some of your pictures. So what I've got here is a picture that I really like, except for the fact that it has a nice big glare spot right here in the middle, and it's got a bunch of sun glare coming over the hillside and kind of getting in the way and kind of distracting from the subject that I have. So I am going to show you how to mitigate that. And what I've actually done is with my camera on a tripod, I've actually taken two images of the exact same scene here. The first image is the one you're seeing now, and the second image is with my thumb in the way, blocking the sun. But obviously, we can't have my thumb there, and the image just doesn't look very good with the glare, but you can see the difference here. So without anything to block the light, you can see that there's quite a bit of glare, and then with something blocking the light, that glare goes away. But we have to combine these and do so in a way that it gets rid of the glare, but obviously the shade that you're using is not in the way. So I took these two pictures on a tripod with the exact same scene, and that's going to really help when we overlay these pictures on top of each other. And Adobe actually has a really good auto alignment feature here that we're going to use, but it's better when we can start with something that's already more closely aligned. Just uses less computer processing power, and it just seems to line up a whole lot better that way. So that's what we're going to do. And I've got these two pictures that have the exact same shutter speed, so there's not any different weird cloud motion or wind motion effects. It's the exact same aperture, so there's not a difference in depth of field between the two images. And it is the exact same ISO, so that there's not going to be weird noisy blotches where I blend away the two images together. So here we go. The first thing I'm going to do to create this action is I'm going to make sure that I am on the furthest left, or this is going to be my base image. When I start making this action, it's going to select the next image in the sequence to the right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit my Create New Action button, which is this guy right here, and you can see it's got this pop-up right there. And we're going to call it Glare Removal Overlay. When I'm done making this action, I will make it available for download, and I'm just going to explain how to use it right now. So here we go. The first thing I've got to do is select that next image. So when I tap this button right here, see how it says Select Next Document? That's always the next document to the right of the image I started running this action on. That's very important to know so that you know you've got the correct images in sequence. Otherwise, you're going to get, if you have a lot of pictures open up top, you're going to see something you're not expecting if you're not cognizant of that. So on this image, I'm going to do Select All, Edit, Copy, come back to my previous document. See, it says Select Previous, and I'm going to paste that there. Okay, so now I've got the image where I want it, and we're going to do an alignment check here. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and pause this action in just a moment. First thing I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to select, with the action still recording, I'm going to select my background. So I've got both layers selected, and to do that, you just press the Shift button while you select that next layer down there. And I'm going to go to Edit. I'm going to go to Auto Align. Auto is selected, and I'm going to press OK. So you can see how it did a little bit of moving right there. Just a little bit of movement occurred. There's some visible transparencies. I've got layer 1 selected. This is where I'm going to pause the action, and I'm going to just show you kind of what I'm looking for to line it up. So if I do a blending change here and I go to overlay, you can see that the pixel, the image is still very crisp, and you can kind of see where there's differences in the images. The overlay basically allows you to look at one image and through it to the layers that are below. And as I can see that the image is pretty crisp, watch what happens when I drag the top layer around. See how it gets really fuzzy like that? If the image didn't line up very well, you might see some really fuzzy edges like this, which we obviously don't want. So I'm going to undo that real quick, and I'm going to go back to making this layer a just normal blending. I'm going to go ahead and select my paintbrush to be ready for what's next. So layer 1 is selected. Layer 1 is the only layer selected. I'm going to restart my recording here, and I am going to go to Layer, Layer Mask, and I'm going to go to Hide All. Okay. And now it just becomes a game of painting away the spots that I don't like on this base image. So here's where I'm going to stop the action. And I will put a stop in here when I'm done, so I have a place to guide myself. And I am now going to paint away the image. So here we go. So I've got my glare, and here we go. Look at that. You can also see that because there was some light bouncing around from the sun just inside the lens, that it actually creates a fairly hazy effect over other areas of the image. So I might actually come through and paint away some of that haze in other parts of the image, and you can see how it kind of gets a little bit more crisp in some of these parts. What I got to be careful of, and you can see as I get closer to that light source, it actually gets a lot more hazy. You can also see as I run over some of these longer grass strands that it actually moves them because they were two different images. But what I got to be careful of as I get closer up to here with my painting, see how it's starting to show my thumb a little bit? I'm going to actually have to paint that away. Now I'm going to leave it right now because I want to get a nice defined hillside right here. And this is doing that for me. And I'm just moving with 100% opacity, 100% flow on this paintbrush. And I'm just moving it around the areas where I can suspect that some of that glare is going to be more affecting the image. Okay. I also like these nice little crepuscular rays up here. But now I've got to do something about my thumb. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to switch this guy back to black. So now I am painting the mask back on, whereas the white was painting the mask away so that it would reveal the image. Black is now going to repaint the mask. Keep this opacity at 100%. Come over here, and I'm going to knock this size down pretty far. Probably make it in the, looks like maybe a 1. That should work. Yeah, good. Okay, and it's going to take a few strokes over where my thumb was. But there we go. My thumb is now gone. Okay, but now I'm going to clean up this mask just a little bit. So I'm going to start recording again. And I'm going to go layer, flatten image. Okay, so now it's all one thing. The glare is gone, as you can see. I'm pretty happy with this. So I'm going to say that I'm actually done with the basic steps of the mask, and I'm going to use a normal, we'll just make it a normal 3:2 crop. And I'm just doing a little bit into the edges, just enough to get rid of those edge transparencies that you could see. That's it. Okay, so I am happy with this picture. You can see the glare is gone. You can see that my thumb is also not present. We did the cropping to make sure that everything lines up and that the overlays, the transparencies are gone. I've got to do a couple of things up here with the action before I'm actually ready to use it. Okay, so what I've got to do here is I probably want to put a stop up here at the beginning that says this is what the action is. Hit continue if you want to do it. Otherwise, now's your chance to hit stop and not get too far down the rabbit hole. But the next thing I do need to do, see where I have this make right here? This is the mask. This is saying it's make a new mask to be a hide all mask on that layer. what I'm going to do now, if I didn't have a stop right here, it would just make the mask and then it would go right to flattening the image and you would have no control over anything. So what I need to do is I'm going to put a stop in. So what I do there is I'm going to come to this little menu. I'm going to insert stop, and I'm not going to allow continue. So what will be a stop, and then you will have to manually press play to finish off this action. So here's what it's going to say. Paint away undesired glare using paintbrush. I think that gets the point across, right? When done, select from. There we go. So you'll paint away the undesired glare using that paintbrush, and when you're done, you're going to select play from the action menu. And I am not going to allow continue on this. So I make the mask, it hits the stop, and then I have to flatten the image. Make sense? So, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to close these guys out. I'm happy with what I've got. I'm not going to worry about that, but I am going to function test my action. So in order to do that, I'm going to open up the next set of files in the sequence. And that will be these two. So when I do these, I always make sure that I do my raw editing first. You can actually see how I've done some raw processing on these. And I've actually started doing that in Lightroom now. That'll be for a future video. Let's go ahead and open these guys up. And I'm going to run this action again. Let's get rid of that crop there, or that crop boundary. It's kind of distracting. There we go. I'm going to run this action again on these two images. So I'm going to come up to that action where it says glare removal overlay. I'm going to hit play. And you can see that I am on the document to the right. So when it selects the next document, it will be selecting this one with my thumb. And here we go. All right, so you can see it did the transparencies. If you look down here, you can see my thumb is in there with the mask put on top of that. And I'm going to go to that 100%. And you can see I can paint away the glare. You do see where it is a little bit more hazy on this one, especially because the exposure is a little bit brighter. You could make whatever adjustments you wanted to here. And for brevity on this video, I'm just not going to do very much, actually. I'm just going to kind of go over these little areas and just give you an idea of what you can do and what this action gives you and this technique gives you the capability of doing. So, as you can see, it's very good at painting out all that extra hot glare, but it does leave behind a nice, crisp, defined hillside boundary up there. There we go. That's all I'm going to do for this purpose. And as soon as I hit the play button, flattens the image, the glare is gone.